Okay, in this video, we're going to cover a function called sparklines. Now, sparklines are not necessarily linked to pivot tables. They can be used independently of pivot tables, but very often you will find them used in conjunction with pivot tables. So what a sparkline basically is, it's a graph that literally sits within a single cell. So let's actually look at how we would create a sparkline. So under the Insert tab, you then go to the section here called Sparklines. You can see there are three different types: a line, column, and a win-loss. So we are just going to do a line one. And it says, what is the data range? So what we want to do is, in this pivot table over here, we've got the different product categories and the sales by month, right? So let's say we were looking at the baking category and we wanted to create a spark line for it. So we highlight the sales numbers from January all the way through to December. And for the location where we want to put the spark line, we select the cell. So let's put it in that cell over there. And now I say OK, and immediately you can actually see it's drawn a graph literally within the cell. If I resize this particular column or resize the cell, the spark line will resize with it. Now, the first thing you should note with the spark line is that the moment we select it, there is a new tab in the ribbon called Sparkline, which has a number of functions related to the Sparkline. So for example, if I click on this, you can see I can actually just change the colors. So this is some quick style formatting of different colors. So there I made it actually green. I could change it back to whichever color. Then the other thing you can do is that you have a number of different markers. So for example, if I wanted to put the high point of the Sparkline in red and I click it, you can see there's a little red dot over there which marks the high point. So it's not only the high point, you can actually put a different color in for the low point. You can see I've ticked on the high point. So if I want to turn that high point off, I can actually tick it off, and you can see now it's no longer showing it in a different color. So in this area here, you can actually tick on, for the high point, the low point, negative points, the first point, the last point, and the actual markers. Now let's look at what each of these are. So if I go to the marker color, let's do markers, right? And let's say we want the markers to be in yellow. You can see at each point it actually creates this yellow. Now this light yellow doesn't actually look too good. Let's see if we can use a darker color, maybe a brown. Yeah, so you can actually see where now it's actually created these markers. That's where each point basically is. So it wasn't showing that before. So if we, for example, turn off the markers, it just shows a smoother line without each point being marked. If you want to highlight the first point, you can actually do that and give it a color as well. So the first point would be the very first point in the series. So if we wanted that also, let's say in a bright blue, you can actually see there's the blue and the first point. Similarly, you can actually mark the last point. So the last point can be in a different color. We could use that purple, and you can see right at the end there on the purple, it's actually doing the last point. Similarly, you'll also have if you've got a low point, so we can do that in a different color. Let's do that in a green, and you can see that low point over there in a green. If we had negative points, we could actually show that as well. So if I want to turn all of these off, remember I can just turn them off over here, and I could also, in this particular area, click on the column option if I wanted to change the view to a column view as opposed to a line view. And then similarly, obviously, the style functions would change as well. Now, if we click on the edit data, while we've got this selected, you can actually see that I can edit the group location and data. So if I enter that initial dialog appears. So the data range of B6 to M6, which was this first one over here, shows, as well as the location, which is cell 06. Now, one of the things you typically would want to do is not just insert a spark line for a single row. We would want to do it typically for the whole table, right? So I've already got one over here. So what I want to show you is, let's say I do the remainder of them. So I highlight all of them like that. And I now go to the insert option on the menu. We go under the spark lines, and let's say we select line. So automatically, because I had the range highlighted, it fills that in for the data range. And now for the location range, I'm going to select this particular area over here, and I'm going to say OK. Right, now you can actually see, if I change this one, because I added it in one group, this is actually sitting independently of that one. Because I added them in together, this belongs to one group. So you can actually group and ungroup items. And what that basically means, if you group them together, when you make any changes, the changes will apply to the full group. So if I change that, for example, to green, they would all change to green. If I click on this one, it's on its own. It's on a group on its own, this particular item. If I change that to a line and I change that color, you can see only that one changes. Now, one of the things you can do is, if I basically highlight all of these over here, I can actually select this option to group them together. So now they all become a single group, and you can see the formatting is now the same. So if I now go and change under the sparkline, if I change them, for example, to a column, they would all change to a column. If I go and change the color to this green color over here, they would all change to green. So that's the purpose of grouping them. If you wanted to ungroup them, you can of course ungroup them as well. So I could actually, for example, have two separate groups. You wouldn't do it in a case like this, but just to show you, you click on the ungroup here under the sparkline. The ungroup actually just brought you to that group and this group, and if I now click on ungroup here, it now becomes, you can see each one is separate, right? So what you've got to do is you've got to highlight them all, and you've got to say ungroup, and now if you click on them, you can see each one now is on its own. So any change I make to one of them is not actually going to affect the others because I've ungrouped them all from each other. And then to group them back together again, you would just highlight them all again and select group again, and now they all become one. Now in this particular pivot table, we had all the years selected, so I just want to show you, if we select 2019, and you can see it actually changes the sparklines based on the data. So as the data gets updated, the sparklines will change. So we now go to 2020, for example. Now one of the things you'll notice is that in this 2020 numbers, in the month of March, we've got blanks here, and you can see you've got these breaks in the sparkline. So you have a number of options in terms of a sparkline, how you want to treat blanks, if there's blanks or zeros. If you click on the sparkline here and you click on this drop down where it says edit data, you can see there's an option here for hidden and empty cells, right? And you can say, well, how do you want to show it? So if there's empty cells, do you want to show them as gaps? So currently these are the gaps. You could also show them as zeros. So if I click OK, you can see they've moved down to 0 there. Let's go back to that option. Or you've also got the option of connecting them with the line. So you can see that actually just connects them with the line as if, from this point directly to that point. Very often, I think you would, depending on your use case, we're going to go back to just showing them as gaps, so we can actually see that there's something missing over there. All right, so that's the one thing. The other thing is, if you click on this edit data option over here, you can actually then see the original data selection. So if you ever need to change, either the data range, you can see there when I clicked on this cell or this field over here, it highlighted the data range, or you can actually change the location range as well. So you can make that change at any point in time. We're going to click on cancel, and then I also wanted to show you that you can actually edit a single sparklines data. So if you're on a particular row, you can actually edit the data just for that particular one if you wish to. That will depend on where you currently selected, because I was on this particular cell. Finally, if you want to clear, if you want to remove a sparkline, let's say I'm on this particular cell over here, right? On the sparkline tab, if I click on just clear on its own, you'll see it only clear that particular one, right? If you want to clear the whole group, what you need to do is next to the clear option, you need to click on the drop down. So you see when you click on clear, it will only clear the selected sparklines. So to clear the whole group, you want to select the second option over here, and once I've clicked on that, it's cleared the whole sparkline.